Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation today. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, we're going to be checking in with Dr. Gerald Horne for this week's Horne Report as we talk about what's going on with those Haitian gangs and seeing how America responds to it. Also, the NBA is back. Dr. Horne is going to give us his analysis of what we should expect in this upcoming season. Plus, let's have a conversation about young people. We started it yesterday with our brother Michael Hotep. I want to continue it today with Culture Crew member Jules P, because we're seeing something where there is the next generation of voters who may not want to vote. So we'll talk about how we need to address to bring these next generation leaders to the polls. We'll have that conversation. Plus, N.O.R.E of Drake Champs fame, co-founder and co-host of the podcast of the influential hip hop podcast, has issued an apology for allowing Kanye West to say things about George Floyd that weren't true. Yep, he's sorry that he feels like he failed his people. We'll share with you what he has to say. So stay tuned for all of that and a whole lot more on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon. Wow. So excited about today's show. We got some dynamic voices that's going to be joining us. And so get ready. Get ready to post your comments on our streaming platforms as we're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook right now, as well as on our own platform at Black Star Network. We would love to hear from you as you join us in the conversations that we think, oh, well, this is what folks are talking about. This is what's important to you. We have to discuss it in more detail. So today, as always, we check in with our great professor of history and African American studies from the University of Houston. It's time now for the Horne Report. Peace, Dr. Horne. How are you, sir?
Hey, it's all good.
Doc, let's start it off. Let's talk about something that's near and dear to your heart, which is the country of Haiti. You have done extensive research about this country, the political ups and downs of this country. And even to this day, Haiti still seems like it's still treated like a stepchild to America in a lot of ways. But now we're seeing a rise in Haiti violence as they are attributed to Haitian gangs and the impact that these gangs are making on the quality of life of other Haitians. And as you can see there, folks, this is from AP. Haiti calls for help at the UN as world mulls the assistance. And folks are very slow. And this is always interesting to me, Dr. Horne, that when it comes to certain countries and certain areas like Cuba and Haiti and other places, there seems to be a very standoffish way that a lot of world leaders take when it's talking about when they see these places in need of assistance, and they're having some sort of trouble. And I'm always wondering, I wanted to always ask somebody, why is that the case, Doc? Why is there, when it comes to Haiti in particular, why is America or other countries just kind of sit on their hands instead of jumping right into the fray?
Well, as you probably know, Haiti and the United States have a very troubled relationship.
Yes, sir, I do.
Haiti between 1915 and 1934. Recall that the Haitian Revolution, 1791 to 1804, which was a remarkable, transformative, and profound event. Think of it. Here you had unpaid workers, enslaved Africans, rising up as one and tossing out French colonizers and their U.S. allies. George Washington himself expressed discontent with what was going on during that particular time. And so the United States did not recognize Haiti until the 1860s. That is to say, it acted like it did not exist, except for seeking to destabilize the regime from time to time. And what's happening today is a direct outgrowth of that troubled relationship. You had the assassination of the prime minister, as you know, some months ago. You have a prime minister today, Ariel Henry, who is not very popular. This has created a vacuum that has allowed for the rise of these so-called gangs, which are basically dominating the politics and society of the country. People are huddling in their homes, oftentimes afraid to go outside. And so what's happening is that many forces in Haiti are not necessarily in favor of some sort of multinational intervention, because in the past, those sorts of interventions have not worked out very well. It seems to me what needs to happen is that civil society in Haiti, that is to say, the unions, the Black associations, the feminist groups, the political opposition groups, need to huddle with their counterparts not far distant away in Cuba and make a proposal to the United Nations Security Council in New York about what should happen in Haiti.
And Dr. Horn, with that, I mean, I agree with your idea of, that something that proposal should be made. And right now we're looking at a situation, and this is what was reported, that the United States is trying to figure out, and this is coming from U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield. She made the announcement at an emergency meeting at the UN Security Council, and made the point that they are preparing a resolution that would authorize an international mission to help improve security in Haiti, and whose government issued a distress call for the people of the crisis-wrecked nation. So this is between the United States and Mexico, said that they are going to work with the UN for this. So is this, what do you make of this from the UN, from U.S., Mexico coming together, trying to bring the UN into this, leading the charge? What do you make of this? Because I know there's some backdoor politics that are happening for this resolution to even come into existence.
Well, I think the problem with the resolution is that the United States is not seen as an honest broker. It's
Right.
seen as part of the problem. And so when it makes a proposal for some sort of multinational force to go to Haiti, people think back to the time about a decade and a half ago when President Aristide of Haiti was ushered out of the country at the behest of the U.S. authorities, with the assistance of the U.S. authorities. Since that time of the deposing of President Aristide, it's been very difficult for Haiti to resume stability. I would have preferred to see a resolution put forward, as noted, between, for example, Mexico and Cuba, because those particular countries have had very positive relations with the island through thick and thin, going back to the bad old days of slavery. So I think the United States, quite frankly, should take a lower profile. It should butt out and let civil society in Haiti, in conjunction with the Cubans and the Mexicans, try to come up with some sort of solution.
So this would be considered a non-UN mission, limited in time and scope, and be led by a partner country that was not named. And according to the U.S. ambassador, with the deep necessary experience required for such an effort to be effective, it would have a mandate to use military force if necessary.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's not good news. I mean, first of all,
that's not good news. That's why I'm trying to figure out, like, this thing is, like, do you foresee this issue, this internal issue within Haiti, getting to that point where the U.S., Mexico, and the UN are allowing military forces to hit the ground?
Well, first of all, this idea of this unnamed, unspecific, non-specific military force going into the island with guns blazing, that seems to me to be a prescription for disaster.
Right, a partner country, Dr. Horn, that they won't name.
Right. I mean, that's probably the United States, I'm afraid to say. And as I said, the United States is not the most popular nation on the island because of the tragic history between Haiti and the United States of America. And keep in mind that these gangs, as they are called, are not necessarily pacifists. They too are armed. And so if you're talking about inserting an external force with arms onto an island that is already swimming in arms, not least because of exports of small arms from the United States of America,
Yeah.
it seems to me that that is not the way to go. I'm a little concerned, more than a little concerned, in fact, with what's transpiring as we speak.
Well, you know what? You're not the only one, because according to the reports, Doc, both Russia and China have raised questions about sending a foreign armed force to Haiti. So you are not the only one concerned about that situation. Now, here's one of our questions from our culture crew member in regards to Haiti, Doc. McCole checked in. McCole, good to hear from you this afternoon. You said, question for Dr. Horne. It seems like Haiti has a stronghold on it as a nation, unstable economically, politically, etc. What will it take to lift Haiti up so that it will be a thriving nation?
That's the $64 question. And in order to answer that question thoroughly, I might have to be on the culture for the rest of the afternoon, which I know we can't afford. But in sum and in short, I think that the United States needs to realize that it should be consulting with the nation which it routinely boycotts. I'm speaking of Cuba, because Cuba has forces on the island, that is to say, mostly doctors. A good deal of Haitian healthcare is supplied by Cuban doctors. They are not far distant from Haiti.
Right.
They should be consulted, but as you know, the United States has a boycott policy against Cuba as well. And so in order for Haiti to lift itself out of the doldrums, it seems to me that the United States is going to have to change its policy, not only towards Haiti, but towards Cuba. And that does not seem to be in the cards at the moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Taylor checked in and said, if they want money, who is going to be fiscally responsible over it? Well, that's a great question.
It's interesting as well that you mentioned that China and Russia are raising objections. As we speak, China has become a major political and economic and financial force in the Caribbean. In fact, they're a major financial force in the Bahamas, which is just off the southern tip of Florida. And so to have China not be at the table and to be seeking to inject itself into the negotiations, it seems to me not to be very wise, because CARICOM, the Caribbean community, that's the nations such as Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana, etc. Why isn't CARICOM taking the lead with regard to Haiti? These are the brothers and sisters of CARICOM, speaking of Haitians. So once again, why does the United States have to play the leading role, particularly given the rather tragic and troubled history between Haiti and the United States?
Absolutely. Final question about Haiti, Doc, came from Mike V. Mike, good to hear from you. You said, can Dr. Horne speak to what happened between Haiti becoming a member of AU and their embassy in Benin?
Well, first of all, with regard to Benin, actually, or formerly
Benin, thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Which, as you know, is featured in the recent Viola Davis cinematic extravaganza, The Woman King. It takes place in Benin, i.e. Dahomey. And it's interesting that during the bad old days of the slave trade, a significant percentage of those we now call Haitians were actually coming from that part of Africa. And so it's understandable and justifiable why Haiti not only would seek to try to animate relations between Dahomey, Benin, and Haiti, but also try to join the African Union. Now, its relationship to the African Union, that's the Pan-African Continental Body headquartered in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I've heard conflicting reports about its application. Some reports suggest that it's a done deal, that it's already in motion. Others say that it's still being contemplated. But in any case, I think that's also worth considering, because perhaps we need CARICOM, the Caribbean community, Jamaica, Barbados et al., in league and in conjunction with the African Union, seeking to carve out a new path for Haiti, more so, for example, than the United States of America.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Doc, so as we of course we're going to keep our eyes on what's going on, and like you said, you bringing up some valid concerns, and I think we should share those same concerns as well, because we know that here in the United States there is a large Haitian community in various parts throughout the United States. Of course, in Florida, I've read, Texas, I've seen. So a lot of us, we even have Haitian roots. What I'm saying, speaking of Black folks in this country, we have deep Haitian roots, and we may not know it, but we do. So when we're talking about, and that's why I brought up at the beginning, Cuba and Haiti. When you're talking about those two places, you got to talk. The conversation has to be had in order for us to see the value and the importance of both of those countries. I want to switch gears because this is also speaks to, we're talking about instability there in Haiti. Let's talk about the potential instability here in the United States with the number of election deniers that are just have found a home in this year's midterm election. And this is very interesting to say the least. And Keenan and Ariel, if we can show this, take a look, folks. This is democracy is on the ballot. This is coming from the Brookings Institute. Excuse me. It says democracy on the ballot. How many election deniers are on the ballot in November, and what is their likelihood of success? Now, this is, I mean, mind blowing to say the least, Doc, when we're talking about this level of infiltration. But the Brookings Institute, they put this out because there have been a number of stories that show that as many as 300 election deniers are on the ballots all across this country in major elections that where if they win, they're going to be in power. They're going to have great influence. And I'm wondering, we've been talking over the past couple of days here on the show how democracy is not just being challenged, but it's forcing voters to think twice. And I'm going to go back, but one of the polls that I read, and I think this came out of the New York Times Siena poll, that actually said that Democrats, and it's not even Republicans, that said Democrats, Dr. Horn, would not be averse to having anti-democratic candidates on the ballot. Now, I'm not saying anti-democrat like the political party, but anti-democratic candidates on the ballot. And I'm thinking to myself, this doesn't make sense to me. Why would you want somebody who don't believe in the system to be a part of the system to tell us that they're going to push and speak for our interests in a system that they don't trust? It's just like this circular logic that I don't understand. Can you speak to this this phenomenon of election deniers in this year's midterm?
Well, first of all, we should realize that we're in a brand new ball game. There's a distinct possibility that we may look back at 2020 as the good old days in terms of electoral democracy, because not only do you have hundreds of Republicans who are basically taking the position that either A, they win the election, or B, if they didn't get the most votes, that means that the other side cheated. And as was said in the trial that's taking place in Washington as we speak of the insurrectionists, the rioters on January 6, 2021, interestingly enough, their slogan on January 6, 2021, when they tried to prevent the peaceful transfer of power to Mr. Biden, is, quote, by any means necessary, unquote. And that's why they were armed to the teeth. That's why they had a gallows constructed on the grounds of the Capitol. That's why they were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." And so we're in a very dangerous situation. And the High Court, the Supreme Court, has not made things easier by basically hollowing out and gutting the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which served at that time to guarantee the right to vote of Black people and then extended to other so-called language minorities. For example, in certain jurisdictions, ballots have to be printed in Vietnamese, they have to be printed in Spanish, et cetera. And not only that, but with regard to your latter point, what's striking is that the Democrats have made the decision that if they help extremist Republicans to win Republican primaries, that those extremist Republicans will not prevail against a Democratic candidate. I take it that's what you're referring to when you were talking about Democrats pushing for these anti-democratic candidates.
Right.
And certain races that seems to be working. If you look at Maryland, for example, where you have a black man, Wes Moore, who's ahead in the polls, double digits in terms of running for governor, that's where they use that strategy in particular. They helped to make sure that the Republicans would nominate an extremist Trumpista, and he's now behind by double digits. The same holds true in Pennsylvania in the race for governor, where Josh Shapiro is ahead by double digits and ahead of a Trumpista. However, that's a very dangerous strategy. It presupposes that the electorate will not cast a vote for these extremists. And we all know that polls can be wrong. For example, up until the election day in 2016, many believed that Hillary Rodham Clinton would prevail over Donald Trump. So it's a very dangerous strategy that the Democrats are pursuing, and let us hope that it does not backfire.
Oh, no, sir. I mean, well, yes, sir. Let me rephrase that. Yes, sir. Very dangerous. And the Brookings Institute, they put a couple of tables together based upon their research. One finds that the likelihood of election denier candidates' November success, out of a little bit over 300, 199 have a high likelihood, 58%, of winning their election, and 70 have a medium likelihood, and 76 have a low likelihood of winning. Now, they also put in, this is what I found very interesting as well, Doc, that the likelihood of election denier candidates' November success by office. And thank you, Keenan and Ariel, for putting this up. Let's scroll down to the second. Let's scroll this down a little bit more. Now, I want to show y'all by office really quickly. Here, take a look at this, and let's make the screen big very quickly. Yep. Let's go down to the part. Now, this is statewide. If you look at this, likelihood of election denier candidates' November success by office. This is high office, governor, secretary of state, attorney general. 14 in high, 16 medium, 17 low. But if you scroll down to the candidates for U.S. House and Senate, this is where it gets. Look at that number, folks. 131 have a high likelihood of winning the November contest. Those candidates are running for House and Senate. And then the rest of the numbers pales in comparison to that. So that means to say that 131 candidates who are running for office in influential positions, because why? We know that the House and the Senate are divided right now, with Kamala Harris with the tying vote, with the game tying vote. But we know you put enough Republicans in there, that thing can tip. So the strategy is not necessarily high level people. The strategy is, let's get the actual lawmakers. Let's get those who are the legislators, because that could do the most damage, because it's statewide, right? And you have more say. You're a part of Congress, and then at the same time, you also are part of the state legislature. That's important for us to know. So when you're talking about, I'm not worried about the governors, because that's one thing. I'm worrying about the people in these congressional races, because they could change the policy for the whole state. They could change the policy for the whole country.
Well, with regard to members of Congress, once again, to cite these polls, which I've already conceded don't have that much credibility, but the polls suggest that the Republicans will retake the House of Representatives, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi will no longer be Speaker. She will be replaced by the Republican Kevin McCarthy. If that takes place, you can kiss goodbye the investigation committee of the House, headed by Congressman Benny Thompson of the Congressional Black Caucus and of course, he's from Mississippi. You can kiss his committee goodbye. And matter of fact, what you can expect if the Republicans take over the House is for Benny Thompson to be investigated. They've already suggested that that's in the cards.
Right.
So once again, I'm afraid to say that we're in a brand new ball game with regard to U.S. politics. dark days, I'm afraid to say, are looming ahead. And I think that what we're going to have to do is put on our marching shoes and put on our thinking caps, because a new situation calls for new thinking.
Absolutely. And Dr. Horn, I've been waiting all week to ask you this question, sir. There has been a number of conversations. We've been having this here on the show, but I'm hearing more and more Black folks saying maybe we need to infiltrate the Republican Party. Maybe that's going to be a way for us to kind of change things, or at least uproot some things. What's your take on that? You study history. You study our history. You study world history. You study political history. Is that a good strategy, sir?
Well, on the surface, I would say no. I mean, if you're infiltrating the Republican Party in order to destabilize it, I say right on, because it needs to be destabilized. But if people are looking for political alternatives, we need to go back to our conversation with regard to Haiti. Recall that we suggested that Haiti reach out to the Caribbean community, reach out to the African Union. With regard to Black people, we really don't have any sorts of foreign relations right now. And so we're trapped behind what used to be called the Cotton Curtain, dealing with these reactionaries who do not plan to have fair and democratic elections. And keep in mind that this strategy that we're pursuing is not the strategy that Black people have pursued for all time. There was once a time when you had internationalists like the late, great Paul Robeson, the tallest tree in our forests, multilingual actor, singer, professional athlete. He was mobilizing the international community on our behalf. I think if people are looking for bright ideas and they're looking for lessons from history, the Robeson example is what needs to be pursued, because going from the Democrats to the Republicans, in some sense, is like going from the frying pan to the fire, unless your plan is to destabilize the Republican Party from the inside.
And what's the likelihood that may happen in this upcoming midterm, or even in the next presidential election?
I think the chances of destabilizing the Republican Party from the inside are slim and none, because let's face it, basically the Republican Party is the party of whiteness. They cater to a few Black people like Herschel Walker, the lamentable candidate for Senate from Georgia, to try to throw dust in the eyes of the public and make the public think that they're not as racist as they appear to be. So when Black people talk about joining the Republican Party, that's like a chicken deciding to invest in Kentucky Fried Chicken, becoming friends with Colonel Sanders. I don't think it makes any sense.
So it's pretty much like investing in your own demise.
Well, exactly. I mean, I understand the desperation, because we've sketched it in the past 30 minutes. The Republicans, at least a wing of the Republican Party, they do not intend to have free and fair elections forevermore. And that's why there are so many election denialists on the ballot. That's why Carrie Lake, who has a good chance of becoming the next governor of Arizona, has said on CNN just a few days ago that either she would win or there would be cheating that would prevent her from winning. And that's the line from the Republican Party. So they're not accepting the results of elections. They're trying to rig elections while at the same time charging the opposition is rigging elections. It's like the thief yelling, "Stop thief," in order to deflect attention from their misdeeds.
Fact.
And so I understand the dire situation, but joining the Republican Party, I'm not so sure about that.
I hear that. Corinna checked in and said, no, we simply need to vote our numbers and take over the Democratic Party. Boom. I think that's probably the most reasonable alternative. Real Corinna, thank you so much, sis. Good to hear from you. Real Brooklyn, you say, as long as the Constitution requires the House and Senate to count the electoral ballots, influences will always exist. A tie is pretty much saying, quote, if issues or questions occur, that's all they need. Right. Truth is power. You said, and this is why I constantly tell my brothers and sisters, get out and vote, because the danger is right there in front of us and we can't wait. Absolutely not. All right, Dr. Horn, we got about 30 seconds. What you got for this NBA season? This is a season that the Golden State Warriors are looking to come back. Their preview is the Golden State Warriors are bidding for a back-to-back title, and LeBron James' high-scoring record as New Year tips off. What you got, Doc? Who are you feeling this season?
Well, I fully expect LeBron to surpass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the #1 scorer in the National Basketball Association. With regard to the Golden State Warriors, I'm sure your audience is familiar with the controversy involving Draymond Green, who punched in the face his teammate Jordan Poole. The team executives were not very happy about that. But in any case, I expect them to bury the hatchet, and I expect Golden State to emerge from the West. And once again, I expect the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis, the 6'11" Greek Nigerian power forward, to prevail over Golden State.
We will see, Doc. We will see. Dr. Gerald Horne, it is always a pleasure and a privilege and honor to have you a part of the show and for us to be able to check in and to pick your brain each and every week for the Horne Report. We appreciate you, Doc, and thank you again for your insight and analysis. And God willing, we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, brother. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk a little bit more about this idea of getting folks to the polls. Now, New York Times did a piece where they talked to a number of young voters under the age of 30 and to get their take on this year's midterm election. And I'm going to share with you just a little bit of what they had to say as we check in with Culture Crew member Jules P., who falls right under that number, to give us some insight as to what we can expect from the next generation of voters who actually may not vote this year. Stay with us. That conversation is up next right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
folks, for our next conversation, we wanted to talk a little bit about election. Why? Because we are just a few days away, it's a little bit less than 3 weeks away from the national midterm election scheduled to happen on November the 8th. Now, there are some states that have already gone into election voting spaces. And I put it out there, folks, I'm just driving this point home. If you live in Georgia, and you're a registered voter, vote like your future depends on it. Because guess what? It does. Guess what? It does. Let me tell you, folks, this is very, very pivotal in a lot of states across the country if we look at this year's midterm elections. And as you can see, there are many different factors that are really going to shape the direction of this country as we move forward, even into the next presidential election. Now, one of the big factors, and we talked about it yesterday with Brother Michael Imhotep, was the age factor. There are a number of young people who are looking to, even if this is their second time they're voting within a national election. But there are a lot of young people under the age of 30 that are trying to figure out not just their issues, not just where they stand, but they're just trying to figure out whether they're going to vote or not. This is something that we need to talk about. And this is why I wanted to have this conversation with Culture Crew member Jules P., who is a hip hop artist, an activist, and advocate. Let's bring Jules into this conversation. Jules, my guy, how are you, sir?
What's going on?
I'm always good to talk to you, bro. I'm always happy to talk to you.
Hey, baby, I'm back, baby. Yeah.
Look, I mean, this conversation about the next generation, this is your generation, Jules. This is folks that are under 30 or they're in that age range, but most of them are under 30. New York Times just did this piece because they have found, based on their recent poll with Siena, that a number of adults of age 18 to about 29 years old have varying political views, but most importantly, may not come out to the polls to elect. Ariel, if we can bring up just the heading for this New York Times piece that we saw. And here's what I want to share with folks about this. And this is why I'm concerned. Check this out. When the New York Times asked the question, what's on the minds of young voters? They reported this. Electorally, young people have often struggled to make their voices heard despite turning out in increasing numbers in 2018 and 2020. According to a New York Times Siena College poll, they found that likely voters younger than 30 plan to support a Democrat for Congress by a 12-point margin in next month's elections, compared with a narrow advantage for Republicans among likely voters at large. But compared with older generation, they were less likely to say they would vote at all. Now, when the New York Times did this expose, what's on the minds of 12 young voters, they did an expose, and these are Black men. Look at this. Take a listen. You got a Black woman, a white male, and a white woman. Now, let me just share with you. Let's scroll down a little bit here, Ariel. I want you to see if we can pull this part up, because I think that this sister here, this is the sister. She's out of Atlanta. And I want to show that if we can just pull it up, I'll give you a minute, sis. But she's out of Atlanta. Her name is Jada Priester. She's 25, Jules. She lives in Atlanta. She sells life insurance. She says she had no political affiliation and had not decided whom she wanted to vote for governor. Y'all know Stacey Abrams is running for governor down in Atlanta, in Georgia, and versus Brian Kemp. She said, quote, "There is no one who made me feel I have to vote for them yet. I am looking at the least worst option." Now, this is a 25-year-old in Georgia, in Atlanta. She said, "The most important issue for me is defunding the police. I am hugely for defunding the police and putting up the resources available for crisis management de-escalation." I want to stop there, Jules, because I want to have you joining me for this conversation. She's 25 years old. She's a young working professional. She's in a state that is hotly contested. You got a Senate race happening. You got a gubernatorial race that's happening. She says that she has not decided who she wanted to vote for governor yet. And we're like a little bit less than 3 weeks out. She said no one has made her feel like she should vote for them, and that she's possibly looking at the least worst option. I'm trying to figure out here, Jules. How did this thing fall apart for where a Stacey Abrams, who has done voter outreach, voter engagement, she's trying to do a number of things with the next generation, but she hasn't been able to fully get a voter like Jada Priester, a 25-year-old, on board or even excited about voting? What is going on with that, bro? As far as you can speak to.
So that's actually a good point to start at. So I feel the sister's point of view. I feel her understanding. Growing up, we were only taught basically Democratic and Republican parties. Middle school, high school, it was always red versus blue. Now in 2022, with the advent of social media, with the advent of apps like CNN and WBL and Fox that are right at your fingertips at all times, news is so up to date and current. Events and politics are so up to date and current in the palm of your hand at any given time. There's so much going on that you don't know which side to take issue for, because you could say, oh, I want to vote Democrat because that's what I voted for, or that's what my family has voted for. But then it's like, we keep on putting Democrats in position and they're not understanding what we're trying to physically get across or what my needs are directly are. Same thing with Republican side. There's people who feel the same way about Republican. Then you have Green parties, you have independent parties. So there's so much going on. I say this all the time. The news cycle never stops spinning. Before, the news just came on in the morning before you went to work, after you got off work, and the late night. Now it's so much news filtering out during the course of a day that there's not enough information to focus in on one topic. So in her situation, and I'm just thinking about her mindset. I know what Stacey Abrams brings forward. Like, I definitely, if I was in Georgia, I'm voting for Stacey Abrams all the way. Because I was there when I was there on the come up when she was getting doors shut in her face and made a way to get them voters, them voters able to vote and express their opinions. So I was there witnessing that. I seen it. In her case, she might not have seen it, or let's just take it from the standpoint she might have. But she's still confused on what issues are you representing for me and for my kind? What can I, how can I benefit from this? Where is my direct correlation from you? I know what you've done for the community, but how does this directly relate to me? And some people have that opinion, or that question. There's nothing wrong with that. What our job to do as mentors, as activists, we're supposed to show that bridge the gap between the question that you have, what they've done, so you see that correlation, so you feel comfortable, because we're not trying to force your hand. I'm not trying to sway you and tell you who to vote for, what you should do, but I also want you to feel more comfortable and say, okay, well, this is what this candidate is doing. This is what they're trying to do. This is what this candidate is doing. This is what they're trying to change. You can make a decision on your own, but you need to know that understanding and that gap to see this is in point where it lies at, so you can actually cast your vote and feel confident about your vote. So I get it.
So let me make sure I'm clear with you on what you're saying, Jules. You're saying that a person like a Jada is not fully informed, has not been fully informed, so that way she can make a conclusive or definitive decision as to who she's going to vote for. She just hasn't been informed. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yeah, and I feel like that's also on the basis of how much she's willing to do on her own research, because also there's not I don't feel like when it comes to voting, or when it comes to laws, when it comes to things you want to change in your community, I feel like that's your extensive research to do. That's not for you just to wait for a commercial to come on and say, oh, I like this candidate because they're commercial cool. They bashing that candidate. He must have did something wrong, something over them. That's not where you get your information from. Your source needs to come from your own personal research, but it also needs to come from what you're trying to change in your community as well. Everything is community based. Don't worry about world problems. Don't worry about what's going on in your city. Think about your community. Start there. What are issues that you need to see in your community? And I feel like there's plenty of Jadas in the world. I feel like there's hundreds of thousands of Jadas across this country that don't understand where their focus in their community is, because a lot of us have been placed in different communities and we're moving constantly, and we're so stressed and worried about our job, and our job is not paying enough, so we have to constantly move and get it out of these situations. It's like there's hundreds of thousands of Jadas out there. So that's where the point I'm thinking of is like, okay, I can understand that in this place where I'm at, of course, I know who I'm voting for. I know what issues I want to research, but for the Jadas of the world, there are so many questions looming before you even get a chance to say, I don't even know what my community needs because I'm not even really a part of my community because all I do is work and struggle and try to take care of what I need to take care of.
And you know what? I would have to agree, bro. I think there are a lot of jaders out there, right? I think there are a lot of young people under the age of 30 who have somewhat of an inkling of certain things going on around them, but they're not fully invested. You know, they're not fully involved. You know, everybody ain't a Jules P. You know what I'm saying? Certain people are not just going to be in those spaces and all of those things. So, but see, here's the other thing. Can we really expect that at 25? Should we really expect that? I mean, seriously. I mean, look. I mean, seriously, folks. At 20, if you think about your average 25-year-old, right? And this is why I wanted to have this discussion, because it's like we got to think about where is the average 25-year-old's mind right now? You know what I'm saying? Are they thinking about the election, or are they thinking about something else?
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? Like if folks, and I want y'all to know, I mean, and let me know in the chat, the 25-year-olds that are in your family, are you having conversations with them about this year's midterm election? Are you having conversations with them about civic engagement and political involvement? Are you having conversations with them about voting? See, and I don't want us to get into a space where we judging the little sister, right? Because at the end of the day, 25-year-olds, they got so many. I mean, you know what it, Jules. I mean, I'm outside of that age bracket, so I can only imagine what's pulling on the mind, what's pulling on your attention. I can only imagine. At 25 in 2022, please. Are you really thinking about voting? Are you thinking, or are you kind of like having these brushes of political and civic involvement? You know what I'm saying? Like you might have a homeboy, a homegirl that be like, yo, you want to, you know what I mean? I'm going out to help to vote. I mean, that's asking. I think personally that may be asking a lot, because I don't think everybody has that type of person in their circle. You might be, you you know, involved, but do everybody have a person that's involved and then not only are they involved, inviting you out to come to a march or inviting you out to come to help with the polls? I don't know if that's really happening. I really don't know, bro. All right, let me go to a couple of, because I want to bring some of my culture crew, my online culture crew here, what folks got to say. I want to make sure I'm saying, but WY Brains. And you said, don't know who to vote for at this point. With the rolling eyes emoji. Sean Thomas, you said no time to be stuck on stupid with the vote. Pain awaits if the wrong ones win. But again, folks, we talking about from where we are right now.
That's fair.
I mean, I'm just let's keep that real. Like we talking about where we are, conscious, educated, politically, you know, engaged. That's where we are.
And not even all of us, because I'm the living proof. I'm not even 100% invested in politics right now. I don't pay none of this mess no mind, because there's too much nonsense going on. So I'm like, yo, what's affecting me and my family? Who's representing those issues? Because it's so much BS that's being pushed into people's minds because negativity sells. So I'm literally in a space right now. It's like, I'm not in no position to tell nobody who they should vote for. I always say, vote because our ancestors died for us to have the right to vote. That's my reasoning for saying vote. But as far as who to vote for, that's kind of sort of got to be a personal thing for you. I don't care what your party is. I don't care what your candidacy is. That's kind of be who's speaking to you. And if you don't know, then research and find out who's related to you. And like you're saying, at 25, we don't know that in this day and age. At 25, when we were 25, it was a different world. Right now, we're at 25 is, think about it.
Man, bro, I feel like I'm worlds apart.
Right, people finish college at 25, like they finished college, they haven't even started their career yet. Because they're still trying to find their job because they got a degree and they're not even working in their degree field. So it's like now I'm in a what they call what they call a space purgatory. Like I'm just like I don't know where I'm at right now. I'm still trying to figure out life at 25. I want to think
you're right, purgatory transition space.
Like,
you're right. Like we trying to figure it out. Look. My little sister on my wife's side. That's my wife's sister, but she's in this. She's right there, and I don't even like. I talk to her about politics as much as I can, right? Just to kind of just throw in little seeds. She's been out with me when we go out and do our activism work, so she's been around. But you know what I mean? But when she talks to other people, her friends, like in her network, bro, they not talking politics. They are not talking politics. And I'm saying this, and I'm bringing this up because over these next couple of weeks, if nothing else that Black America should focus on, if we can't be, look, you ain't got to hammer me down about voting. I already know the importance of it. I know the historical relevance of it. I get all that. We need to talk to the next generation.
Right.
Because that's the group that is the swing, what they call the swing voters, right? They can swing from right to left. Now I'm gonna share with y'all more of why I said that, because trust and believe, if there isn't an active effort to get these next generation of qualified voters to the poll, we're gonna miss out. Jay, now you said, I don't understand how people are undecided. Are folks expecting to get electric shocks of inspiration and immediate change? Life is not a sitcom or scripted show. No, it's not important. Again, we gotta connect the dots for some of us, for some young people. And I'm not saying that we should just let it go with them being ignorant. I'm certainly not saying that, Jules. But to your point, we want to have to kind of like bridge the gap. They have to be connected. And and look, I was shocked when I read the little sister's quote. I was like, damn, she in Georgia? And she's still saying she don't know who she gonna vote for? The least worst option? Like, woo, that's not an indictment on her. She's stating what her vulnerability is. I think that's more of an indictment on the Democratic Party down there. That's the indictment. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's throwing shade at, unfortunately, like to our sister Stacey Abrams and whoever is in her camp, that's not reaching out to that group. In Atlanta, you can't get a 25-year-old to see the difference between a Stacey Abrams and Kemp?
Yeah, right.
That's the vote you need to take you over.
Or how was she raised? Because she might be.
Or how was she raised? But bro, everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like ignorance, even if you raised in a crazy situation, knowledge is so accessible nowadays.
I'm not even talking about a crazy situation. What if she's raised more on the Kemp side? What, like I don't know that little girl.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know her situation. I'm saying so like she can be conflicted. Like I was raised in a Kemp state, but I'm with my people in the Stacey Adams battle. It's like you don't know. I don't know. I need more information on her. That's why I will never ever judge a state. I don't know. Let me tell you, I'm the sister, and I want her to be able to get that gap bridge so she can make the right decision. I don't care. Like I don't care what her decision is. I just want her to make the right decision that's best for her. But I want that gap bridge. So she knows. But
she already know that she knows that when she at least. And here's where I think that we could probably start, and then we're gonna take a quick pause. And I got more to share with you on this one, folks. Y'all don't want to walk away. Y'all don't want to turn away from it, but at least we can possibly start with where she is. And this is and Jules, you know this, and like I know this, in simple organizing, you don't tell people that you don't just throw a vision on people. You start with where they are, and then you work them up to the place that they can be, right? To the vision that you have. So we start with where she are. At least she knows that she wants something done about policing.
Right.
Police reform.
Right. Yeah, she did state her issue.
Now she's using defund the police. For those of us who know the ins and outs of police funding, public safety, and priorities, and all of that stuff, you can help the sister grow into better understanding. Okay, when you say defund the police, what does that mean? She said, okay, well, I want more services to go on the back end, not just arrest people and throw away the key. I want them to be some wraparound services involved as well. But I think you gotta start with where she currently is before you just automatically jump to assume, oh, okay, so she's we can't do nothing with her. She's hopeless.
Right.
Let me go back to the comments, and then we're gonna take a quick pause. Robin, you said if these young people can sit and read Instagram and TikTok all day, they can take their same energy to get educated on the candidates in their local elections. Hey, Robin.
That's our generation. Yeah, that's our generation saying that. But I mean, you got to think about a 25-year.
Robin.
Yeah, I get it.
At 25 years old, and I don't know how old you are, Robin, but at 25 years old, did you look up any candidates that was running for office?
What is that, T?
How many of us really looked up? I mean, look, we can't put more on somebody else that we didn't do.
Right. That's why, that's you got to understand it from their standpoint. And so, like, we can't do that unless we're that age. Like, that's why I need people that
maybe the candidates need to show up on TikTok. Matter of fact, the president just put out a piece. I don't know if I follow the president on social media. I don't know if anybody else does. I'm following the president of the United States, like Instagram and Twitter. But I don't know if anybody else do this. But the president just recently, and in his announcement of the student debt loan website being up and running, he put out a TikTok. President Biden, who's almost 80 years old, put out a TikTok about the website being open and up and running. You gotta meet people where they are sometimes, man.
I just want to say, as a 30
old Biden,
as a 33-year-old man, I don't be on social media like that anyway. But if I see President Biden come across my timeline, I'm just gonna scroll past. I'm not gonna watch it. I'm just being me honest. Like,
check this out. Let's keep it real, Jules. How many adults actually look up candidates that's running for office?
Unless you.
I mean, that's just your job, or that's.
Yeah.
How many adults? I mean, come on. I mean, I get it, Sophia. You checked in. You said we didn't have the internet, right? I get that.
That's one of my main points.
But here's my point, though, Sophia. My point is,
I get it.
Do we expect and check, trust and believe? And my man Jules checked that. We're gonna get him back. There we go. The point is, we can't expect other people to do it.
Right.
We can't do it. So we're in a very, very interesting place. Like, we can't just put that on a 25-year-old. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, I'm going to share with you this. We're going to continue the conversation. I'm going to share with you what another group of young people, Black folks, said about their view about this upcoming election. Folks, stay with us. You don't want to miss the conversation on the other side. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and for this afternoon and being a part of the conversation. And we're having a very, very good conversation this afternoon as we talk about the plight of the next generation voter. What's on the minds of the young voter? This comes out of an expose that New York Times put out based on a New York Times Siena College poll that shows that a number of young voters, potential young voters under the age of 30, who have diverse political views are not very excited about going to the polls in this year's midterm elections. And I'm delving deeper into this because I feel like there is some work that still needs to be done to engage these voters. And when you have young people, they're under the age of 30 who say things like, you know what, I'm not impressed right now. These candidates just not doing it for me, or I'm thinking about choosing out of the least worst option, or I may not vote at all. It is an indictment. It's a big black eye to those candidates, especially in those hotly contested states like Georgia and in other places around the country, where those candidates aren't able to connect and engage with the next generation, which may be once it's all said and done after November the 8th, depending on whether the candidate is successful or not, that may be the one group, young people may be the one group that could have taken that candidate to victory, or could be that one group, or it could be the one group that takes that candidate to a loss. So we're talking about this. And I've been chatting it up with our culture crew member, Jules P. And folks, it is conversations like this that we want you to continue to support us. So this is the type of discussion. We want you to join us right now as we're streaming live. You can also hit me up on my social media at The Real Farajii. You can hit me up on Twitter right now, Farajii. Let's hear what you got to say as we talk about this, because this is very important to me personally. I've been around elections, I've voted in elections, and I've encouraged young people to vote in elections. But in this day and time, trust and believe, and I know a lot of you are saying, no, we got to get them to vote, right? But I can understand why. They may not be excited about going to the polls. All right, let's bring Jules P. back into the discussion. Jules, thank you so much, sir. All right, so we've been talking about this young sister, Jada. A lot of people have been chatting about her and seeing what she needs to do. Maybe a lot of people saying basically she needs to step up her game. And I'm pushing back on that, Jules. She doesn't need to step up on her game. She needs to be educated and cultivated. But who is responsible for doing that, right? If voting and going to the poll is not a value, you brought up an excellent point, Jules, about this. She may have been raised in a household where this may not been the big talk, right? That come election time, baby, you got to go to the polls, and you go with your mom or your grandmother, your dad or your granddad or your uncle or somebody in your family take you to the polls. It may not be a family value. That may not be a family value. So if she comes into registering to vote on her own, if she comes into looking at currently where things are, and she even comes to this decision and say, I don't know, I'm going to vote, but it's going to be a least worst option, and it's not a value, she's still making progress because she didn't come from that place. Am I making sense there, Jules?
Yep, 100%. And
so I think we gotta figure out, well, okay, what's the compromise? What's the happy medium between those two schools of thought? I mean, you don't want to lose her as a potential voter, but then at the same time, you want to kind of get her to see, like, you got to take responsibility for your own actions, right? Yeah. But voting is an exercise not just about knowledge. Voting is an exercise about seeing your citizenship differently. Mm-hmm. If you don't see yourself as being an engaged citizen instead of just somebody who lives in a city, who lives in a state, who lives in a county, and you just go along to get along, not knowing what's going on, not knowing what policies are in your best interest and policies that are against your interest, if you're just kind of just existing and not knowing what you need to do as being a citizen, I mean, I can understand it. I really can understand it. And a lot of 25-year-olds are in that place, bro. Right. You know it and I know it. A lot of 25-year-olds are just kind of existing politically. They have a term, Jules, I read about this morning. They call them politically homeless. Now, this is the first time I've ever heard this term. So, folks, some of y'all might have heard this. I had never heard this. Politically homeless. And I thought to myself, wow, I've never heard that. Somebody that does not have their own, like a party that they're home to. But what's your take, bro? And then we go back to, I'm going to share something else from this as we talk about this. What's your take?
So one, I'm going to start with your politically homeless thing. I think that's an excellent term. And I think that's a term that should be not looked at as a bad thing. It's okay. It's okay to not know what you're being represented, who you're being represented by, what party who has your best interest. That's okay. So don't, like, if people that are listening to this or watching this live and they're understanding, that's not a bad thing. It's okay to be politically homeless. That's cool because you have a chance to now learn and retain more information from what you want to do, but you haven't made a decision yet. That's perfectly fine. So that's point number one. Point number two, I was thinking when you were talking, Farajii, if, let's just say, for instance, people like you and I, for example. So I'm going to use you and I because I don't want to use anybody else because I don't want to castigate my opinion or thought on somebody else's well-being or how they are. You and I are in spaces where we have interests, but we also have knowledge of things that we don't know everything about. So we also join into those fields to learn information, to get more knowledge, and to gain that. And then we're able to talk to others to, be able to relay and have an actual conversation with somebody. Especially being on this show, you have to have knowledge. You have to have a knowledge of a lot that's going on. You can't just be focused on one thing. I think that our generations coming up after us, that's just the conversations from people like us because we're not of older age, but we're also in a space of media that we're continuing to do to pass down that information and knowledge. I give you a prime example of myself. My knowledge is definitely way more sports, way more music, and then everything else kind of sort of falls in line about where it is. So you never heard me mention politics. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, November 8th, I know every single candidate who I'm going to vote for and what their issues are. I still have to do my research, but I have the knowledge to say, I don't know what I don't know. So I'm not going to speak and say, oh, you should vote for this candidate, or I'm going to vote for that candidate because of this or because of that. I don't know what they're representing yet, but I know where my space is at in my family and what I need to take care of on my day in and day out basis. So then I also have a ground to stand on as an adult to say, okay, this is the issues that I'm dealing with currently. This is the person that I feel like can best address the issues, or at least when they get into office, when I form my community of organization of what we're all dealing with and what we need to address in our own personal community, that they'll listen. And that's my biggest thing. I need a politician that listens. I don't give a damn about what your goals and your views are, because a lot of that is just fluff you're just spewing off so you can get people to vote for you. So you're going to say, oh, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to do that. And okay, that's fine and dandy. But these are actual issues that not just me personally, but this is a community thing that we have and that we're dealing with. And you're just going to listen and then just say, all right, then we'll move on to the next step if we're going to solve that. So I think that's where the gap that I'm going to continue to bridge on myself to pass down to the next generation. Because again, voting, voter registration to the next generation, if it ain't Diddy saying rock the vote, a lot of them didn't know nothing about voting. My first time ever voting.
Hey, bro, let me tell you, Diddy said that. I remember that effort. It got some people to go into the polls. I remember that.
I remember the whole campaign. I remember everything. Remember 106 in Park was featuring it every day.
Right. And look, truth is power. To your point, you brought that same point up. You said there's really no way that people can say they're not aware. They've got rappers doing vote videos. They got R&B artists talking about voting. And then the Black Star Network. They're not doing, look, I don't see no rock the vote.
Right.
There's no rock the vote campaign right now. You got some artists that may do it. And then look, as much as I like to believe that Black Star is the #1 source of news and information, I know black folks ain't listening. Is not all the next generation. Let me just say that the next generation is not tuned into Black Star. We're working to get to that audience. But because of the voices that we currently have, like Jules and others on the space, but we're not there.
Right.
We're not there on the digital, unless y'all make us there. Unless you show your friends. The clip we did with Kanye, big shout out to my guy Keenan. The clip that we just did with Kanye from Monday's show got damn near 50,000 views almost.
Yeah, because negativity sells.
You know what I'm saying? But those are moments, right? But we're not there yet. Like even the place, like any place that's putting out good information, knowledge, you're not getting the widespread mainstream distribution of information right now. We're just not there. And we're competing. You know what I'm saying? We're competing with other sources of news and information. So I get that. But a lot of, we don't think that, and I think part of it is that we don't think the midterms elections are as important as they are compared to the presidential election. So we're not, when we saw Rock the Vote, when we saw all of that, that was a lot of it's for the presidential election. The midterm, now I'm at this age, I understand a lot of how politics roll. Man, this is the nuts and bolts right here.
Right.
This is the nuts and bolts right here. Now, let me just share this very quickly. And Marcina Faith Albert, you brought up this. You said this in your comment. You said, do we have any data on if the student loan forgiveness has influenced young voters to vote more? Actual data. Marcina, let me share this with you. And I think that I'm glad that you brought this up. Here's what I want you. Here's what it says here. According to the New York Times Siena College poll, they found that President Biden's student debt forgiveness plan, which has been in the news, none of the 12 young voters that they spoke to said it was a top issue. So that means what? The stuff that we think is a top issue. If you're 25 years old, you're not thinking about paying off your college loans at this moment.
That's my point. That's my point.
That's a 40-year-old issue. It affects you at 25. But you don't see the implications of that until you in your 30s, into your 40s, and all of those things. So you know it's not a top issue. So we gotta like adjust our thinking to make sure that we do what we need to do on that side. Jules, what's your take?
That I was about to say that's the point right then and there. It's like y'all got to like, all right, I'm about to be that guy, but that's like somebody of an older generation telling me what I should and should not like. That's not none of your, like, you don't know what I should and should not like. Your generation of 30 is different from my generation 30. So if you're 50 years old trying to tell me what me to do at 30 years old, it's not going to be the same. So the same way with us and our generation trying to tell somebody at 20, 25 what to do with their generation, it's not the same. So you can't say, oh, yeah, getting rid of student debt. Let me tell you 100%. You know a phrase I hear all the time from people of 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40? F them loans because I ain't paying them anyway. So what does student debt relief mean to them when it comes to voting? Now, student debt relief is good for us financially, but I'm talking about as an issue for voting. That's not going to be the thing that's going to win over that generation. For our generation, it's a step. Okay, I filled out the application. They said they'll get back to me by December. Yeah, because they're getting about 200 million people applying a day. So they're going to have to go through a lot of these applications. So what's the chances of you getting the full 20,000 versus the chance of you getting lesser on the 10,000 side? You don't even know that yet. It's a great idea, but at 25 years old, I'm not even thinking about that because I haven't even worked in my career where my degree is starting for yet. I'm still working part-time jobs, trying to get into that space, trying to get to that space of passing med school or passing the bar to get to law school. Like I'm at 25, I'm not even in my career yet.
Hey, bro.
Appeal to the age gap. That's what it is.
That is real talk right there. Let me just share another element of this, because as they talk to this, and Ariel, I'm gonna ask you. Well, you know what? You can't. We're gonna see if we can get this out. There were two young black men that were also asked as part of this expose that New York Times did about their views on the vote and midterm election. Two young black men, Jared Tate, 28, and Derek Whitehead, 29, of Ypsilanti. High school friends, they do a podcast together. Mr. Tate is a registered Democrat and works at Target while studying communications at Eastern Michigan University. Listen to what this man said. If Trump runs again, I will consider voting for him, mainly because of the financial aspect of it. Trump did a lot for small business owners that a lot of people don't know about. I voted for Biden last time and wanted to give him a chance. Mr. Whitehead, his friend, 29-year-old black man, not affiliated with the party, and voted to re-elect President Donald Trump in 2020. He said, quote, this is his quote, "I honestly don't know if I'm going to vote or not. I looked at it as more personal. If it doesn't have anything to do with me and my inner circle of family, it doesn't concern me."
I'm waiting to the comments chime in.
I ain't on mute. I want y'all to take this in. We got the picture. Boom, there they go. Let's make it big, Ariel. Let's make it real big. Two of these black men, look at this. Look at this. Two brothers who you would probably assume they do a podcast. Both of these black men are possibly looking at voting for Trump. Y'all figure that out. Now look, check this out. We can take one or two approaches. We can say they're lost, they're gone, they're unredeemable. We can't, they're hopeless. Or we can say, oh, snap, we're losing.
Thank you. Thank you, Farajii. Thank you so much.
Not they're lost, we're losing.
Thank you. Because everybody wants to point the blame at the kids for not knowing. And it's like the information that you have given us, that we presented with the political parties that we represented, haven't represented us. I've been saying that for years. Just because they're Democrat does not mean they represent us. Yes, we were all
talking it blew me away. Jules, when I read it, I damn near dropped my phone. I said, I gotta bring this to the show. I gotta talk about this. Bro, we're talking about 29-year-olds that are saying, I'd rather vote for Trump. Now, you could hear the brothers, the intelligent black men. Would you take those two black men and call them all types of names? Or would you take those black men and embrace them? And they probably see us. They probably have no problem in expressing their blackness.
Right.
They probably wouldn't have no problem in calling themselves black men. But they're trying to figure it out. And they're saying, look, Trump may be the best one for me.
Because, like, here's where the political debate thing comes in. If substantial evidence can be based on merit of both parties' representation of what they've done for each other or what they've done for their communities, and then you present that and say, hey, in this 4-year term, side A did A, B, and C, side B did A, B, and C. This is the differences that they didn't, act on. This is what they changed that wasn't in the best interest of the nation or the best interest of the community. And then you sit there and say, okay, with actual statistics, and then they say, okay, this is why I'm voting for that candidate. I can't argue you because you did your research. It's something that affects you. I can't tell you just because you're black, you're supposed to vote for the Democratic Party. I can't tell you that. That's not my call. But whatever you feel relates to you, as long as you got your facts straight and it appeals to you, I don't care what it does for me. If it appeals to you, I don't care what your age range is. You're able to make a conscious decision, because the next thing you're going to step on a person and say, okay, so yeah, they voted for that guy. I don't even say, if you notice, I never say that man's name. I usually just call him 45. I never say his name. I just don't respect him as head office. I never did. But in his time when he was running, if you voted for him, that's your decision. But what I don't want to do as Big Brother Jules, activist, hip hop artist, cool dude from around the way, I don't want to then sway you on not voting at all, because at least you're voting. And at least you made a conscious effort to pick what you want to vote for. Do I want you to vote for him? No, but I can't, I'm not in your shoes. So I don't know what you're dealing with outside of our personal conversations, because I can only tell you what's happening in our conversations. When we talk to each other, I can only say, okay, yeah, bro, this is what I'm going through. This is what the community need. Boom, boom, boom. This, this is what this candidate's doing. This is what this governor doing. This is what this mayor's doing. This is what this council person's doing. Blah, 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 like that. I got you. We can have that personal conversation. But once you leave that realm, as long as you take my knowledge into consideration, that's all I ask. That's all I ask. You do what you want to do with your vote, but at least you have my side of it too. So you can't be like, oh, I'm ignorant completely to that side. I'm only voting him because this is what the masses are doing, or this is what just appeals to me. No, I have knowledge of both sides, and then I made my firm decision, and I can't knock that. That's why I don't care. Like, I don't do political conversations with people when it comes to people that are just so one-sided. If you're still trying to figure it out, or like we say, politically homeless, that's fine. Then that's where the conversation happens, and you vote for who appeals to you. Then after 4 years, you're allowed to change. So it's not like, oh, I'm voting for this guy because of what he said or what he did for small businesses, and this would appeal to me. And then after the 4 years, like, damn, he ain't capitalizing none of that. Yeah, let me rethink my vote and, look at another party. That's fine too. People, again, I tell people all the time, you're allowed to make mistakes. It's fine. Stop judging. Everybody's so judgy. Everybody's so not Snapchat, Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and commenting. You're so judgy. Let people make decisions. Let people make mistakes, but then also let them correct their mistakes on their own and realize, okay, that didn't work. Okay, let me vote for this candidate. They appeal more. Let me do more research. Let me support their fund. Let me support their brand. Let me support their campaign. And that's all I ask.
Hey, I get it. Hey, Chris, my guy, Chris V, you checked in and said, I wish people didn't have the mindset of voting only for themselves and immediate family. Well, I mean, you got to start somewhere. Now, if you always have that mindset, that's one thing. But you got to start somewhere. At least you are thinking about yourself and your immediate family. Because once you start to think about, okay, what's in the best interest of my family? What's in the best interest of me? You know what I'm saying? Then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we can do this, we could do that. Everybody's not gonna come out the box thinking about, oh, community. We're not gonna all be there. I'm glad. But again, to me, this seems like this is an indicator of where the Democrats or where we as a people have to tighten up on. When we do voting campaigns, we try to get to adults. We tend to forget the next generation, those young people that are coming up behind us. The voting campaigns is geared toward us. 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, you know what I mean? But what about these 20-year-olds? They have the ability to vote. They are thinking about things. And who knows that our level of engagement with them about political issues will set them on a path and on a track for them to vote a certain way, for the rest of their lives. But we always, and people always act like, oh man, well, we can't, they don't bring the money and all that, but they got the numbers. Mm-hmm. They got access to people. If you go on your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, your grandson, your granddaughter's social media, they got thousands of people that they follow them on social media, thousands. Mm-hmm. With just a click of a button, whoo, they put out a message. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We old school. Social media is something that we use, but we like that. We like to face to face. We like, television and radio. Right. That's why we got a digital platform. That's why we got a digital space. But this is, to me, is a huge sign that something has to be done. And I'm reading the comments, Jules. And folks are checking in. Folks are checking in about this. To see two young black men talking about voting for Trump in this year's midterm, or in the presidential election. But if they have views that align themselves with Trump on certain things, not on all things, I'm sure if they sat in front of us today and they say, no, I don't agree with everything he's done, but he's able to do, if he can do something for me financially, if he can change the quality of my life in this area, that area. People, I mean, at least they're thinking, but we got to meet them where they are. Do we bash them over the head? Or we meet them where they are? Let me go to a couple of the, some more of the comments from our culture crew. McCole, you said, when a young adults see the personal effects of policies by politicians who do not have the best interests of their constituents in mind, I think it will give them a wake-up call. Voting is important. I agree, McCole. But if they vote one way right now, and that vote is one of the key votes to bring the candidate that you may not agree with into power, then we all going to suffer from that lesson. We all going to suffer. So here's what I'm thinking, Jules, as we close this part of the conversation down. We can kind of go on this track of they need to catch up, or we can start to use this, and this was an informal conversation, so there's no data on this, right? I mean, we've been talking about something that's already been from the New York Times. But if we were to say, okay, midterms is in a couple of weeks, let's see what we can do, but let's get them ready for the presidential. You know what I mean? We got about 2 years for the next presidential election, year and a half, a little bit more than that. But if the next presidential election that's going to come up, if we get them ready for that, because we might have to take a hit on this one. Because we didn't put enough time in teaching and cultivating the next generation of voters. We might have to take a hit on that, bro. But we may not, we have a great opportunity not to take the hit on this presidential election in 24.
Right.
I think that if we set up some mechanisms, or if we could, any of our campaigns, and I'm not talking, don't insult the intelligence. I remember, and you know, you probably remember this time too, Jules, as we worked together years ago. I always thought it was insulting that even in my 20s, I still wanted you to treat me like a critically thinking adult, right?
There you
so
go.
You didn't need no hip hop artist to talk to me about civic engagement. And anytime we did leadership trainings, we did our conferences, Jules would tell you, we never had a party. Why? People always told us, well, that's how you're going to bring young people. If a party is the only way to bring the next generation into the space where we can have some very, very real conversation about everything from politics to leadership, I don't want to be a part of it.
Right. Right.
Those two things should just be able to stand on its own. You don't need to massage it. You don't need to add some sugar to it. You don't need to have to put some music behind it. Get involved. And you gotta, no. Bro, we need to get involved. Like, that's how, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to have all of that. That's it. I felt like that was an insult. And as a young person, I didn't do it. I still didn't. No, we don't need to have no party. You don't need to bring out no hot dogs. You don't need to bring out no moon bounce. You don't need to bring out this artist and that artist. Bro, this is what it is.
Straight like that.
This is the situation we find ourselves in economically, politically, and socially. We need your help. You ready to step up? Are you dissatisfied with the way life is going? Are you happy the way your mama's life has been? Are you happy the way your community is? This is what it is. You want to help? You want to join us? Jules at 15 got involved in a leadership program, and then boom, said, "No, I want to help. I want to get involved. I want to do whatever we need to do because I see some stuff already at 15." You don't need to. I mean, look, I think, and my point in all this is that I think that we sometimes downplay how intelligent young people are in making certain decisions.
Yep, I was about to say that.
Go ahead,
point.
bro. Go ahead.
I was about to say literally, and speaking from experience, like from places that we've been, and from people that are commenting, like, you know, whether it's on this show or just in general about young people and why they make the decisions they make. I also remember too have been in this I'm not gonna say policy game, this activism game for a very long time, and I've also been in places when I went to talk, I was basically looked at as, why are you talking? You were too young to even understand what's going on. So my voice was starting to get muffled at a young age. I didn't allow it to because I still spoke my piece. But even the older generation were looking at us like, okay, so what you bringing to the table? Okay, that's not a real issue. And it's like, okay, but if they are talking about stuff that's going to affect the next generations and the generations after y'all, you also need to listen to the generations after y'all and stop making decisions on your own. And that's where we, again, have the beef between our own parties. Because if you're Democrat and I'm Democrat, but your generation of Democrat is focused on this, and my generation is trying to change this, we're never going to meet here. So that's the type of things we had to deal with also in these young spaces coming up. So, I mean, I get it. That's why I'm like, I don't fault nobody for having their views on what they want to do. I'm not going to muffle nobody's voice. Who you vote for is who you vote for. What you do is what you do. I'm just here to be that guy to say, okay, like let's talk about it. Let me show you this side too. But then, at the end of the day, it's still your decision. Like, I'm not going to muffle your voice. That's it, bro. That is absolutely it. So I think that we should keep our eyes on this. And I'm going to bring up, and I'm sure there are going to be more articles and more pieces that are written and spoken about to get in the next generation involved. Like I said, we may not be able to get those young people in for this election, which is still a pivotal hit. We may have to take the hit. But for the presidential, we should have some stuff in place. Now that we know that Black youth in particular are kind of not going in the direction. And Damon, you made this point, brother, about you taking your son. You said, quote, I took my son with me when I voted several times. I had him fill in the bubble for Obama for president both times. Well, guess what? That we got to get back to that old school. When y'all go to the polls this November, take a young person. Take a young person and explain to them why, what you doing. They could stand there with you. Take a young person to the poll. You don't like the way things are going for young people and you think they crazy and all that? Start cultivating them right where you are. Take a young person to the poll when you vote this November. And once you take them, explain it to them and help them to understand, guess what? Now you cultivating another generation of voters. And I'm saying take a young person, you can take them 8 or 9, but take them when they like 15, when they don't want to go. You know what I'm saying? The former
years. Like, why we gotta go, Mom? Why we gotta go, Dad? Why we gotta go, Auntie? Damn, all right. Come on. Cause y'all going to the polls with me. Come on. And explain it to them. I voted for this person because they stood for this. I voted for that person because they stood for that. And that's how you cultivate them. Don't get mad at the generation. Lana, I saw your piece. I saw you. Lana, you made an excellent point. Let me see if I can find. You made the point that we are making the Jadas because we're not having these conversations with Jadas, the Jadas in our family. We all conscious, we all engaged, but we keeping it to ourselves, that knowledge to ourselves. We can't do that no more. The culture is suffering as a result of that. So we gotta make some changes within our own circle, within our own sphere of influence of getting these young people politically and civically engaged. Don't wait for the schools to do it, because they may or may not do it. Don't wait for no outside force to do it. Don't wait for TikTok and social media to do it. You got to take that responsibility. If you can touch the life of a young person today, then you can empower them for tomorrow. That's what it is. All right, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's check in. Jules, I got to talk about N.O.R.E, who is the host of Drink Champs, one of hip-hop's most influential podcasts, and how he feels bad and has said he feels like he failed the Black community for not checking Kanye on his offensive remarks about George Floyd. We'll talk a little bit about that. Stay with us. That discussion is coming up next, along with Trends Post and Doing the Most. You tune into The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
There's an angry angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol. We've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are black beyond measure.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Culture here on the Black Star Network. We wanted to just kind of talk, my head's just all looking crazy. We wanted to have another conversation as a supplement to what we talked about on Monday. Now, you know, myself and B Fly, my guy Jules would normally be on Monday, but he couldn't make it on this Monday. So that's why he's on today. But with Jules, I have to say, bro, let's bring him back in. Jules, man, conversation about Kanye and between me and B Fly, bro.
As I expected it to go. As I expected it to go.
It was a conversation. But here's the thing, though. I loved it because you got to hear from two sides. I loved it because it brought a lot of things up. But, folks, the conversation, it is what it is. But now, the other part of that conversation is the fact that Kanye West was allowed to share these views, these very inaccurate, incorrect, blatantly offensive views about George Floyd, what happened to our brother, in such a space without being G-checked, Jules. And he said it, of course, on the show Drink Champs that is co-hosted, co-founded by hip-hop artist N.O.R.E. His name is Noriega. His hip-hop name is Noriega, but we call him N.O.R.E. for short. And according to Variety magazine, take a look at this, Ariel. Let's put this up there, that N.O.R.E., the co-host and co-founder of Drink Champs, admitted during an interview Monday with The Breakfast Club, another hip-hop show, that he felt he, quote, failed my people by continuing the conversation despite West's contentious remarks on the show. He told host Charlamagne Tha God that he could blame West, but instead wanted to speak on the Breakfast Club in an effort to accept responsibility. He said, quote, "I want to be honest. I support freedom of speech." He said, "I support anybody not being censored, but I do not support anybody being hurt. I did not realize that the George Floyd statements made by Kanye on my show were so hurtful. You have to realize that it was the first 5 minutes of the show. Like when he walked in, he told my producer that if we stop filming, he'll walk out. So I wanted the man to speak. I don't watch my own interviews because I know I'm great. But when I watched this one, I cringed and I felt terrible. So I have to say that I am sorry to anybody who was hurt by his rhetoric, anybody who was hurt by his speech." Now, Sean Diddy Combs' Revolt TV has since pulled the Drink Champs into episode featuring Kanye West since that taping. Take a look at that. N.O.R.E. He's not happy that went. Even though that was a infamous, it's not even going to be considered classic. It's more infamous at this point, Jules. But what do you make of that? That Kanye, that N.O.R.E. felt like he had to even apologize for this. Because I think it's very interesting. I think it's very interesting, and it speaks volumes about where we are. That even though we all, and I think a lot of us who are in this media space, right? Artists, talk show hosts, digital hosts, all of us, right? That we still have to put out accurate information. That there still are some things that we have to adhere to. But what do you make of this, bro?
RATINGS ratings. That's why I wasn't stopped. Because when you bring Kanye on, it boosts ratings because he's so controversial. I'm gonna go attack this from a couple points. One, I don't like the fact that we keep on giving him attention. I like it. It bothers me so much. Media has to stop doing this with people, and it's not just with him. It's with Blueface and Christian Rock. So it's just like y'all want to get the negative people so much publicity and attention all the time. That is problematic, because then the next thing is they're going to keep on getting into more and more things, because now they realize the attention is on them, the spotlight is on them, so they're going to continue to do more and more things that's just more nonsensical. To us, we like, why? To them, they're speaking on behalf of who they think they're representing. As far as N.O.R.E, I watched the interview today. I actually watched it like first thing this morning with him on Breakfast Club. It was like a 16-minute interview, and he was stating the fact that he said, at the time when Kanye first said it was like the first, from what I heard, 'cause I didn't watch the interview, I just saw the clip, but from what I heard, it was like the first 5 minutes of the show. And what he said is, it was like a 3-hour interview, I guess. And in the course of the interview, as he started drinking and drinking more, he said, It started to hit him where then he checked him about 6 or 7 times. And he kept on bringing up like, about the George Floyd situation. And he kept on checking Kanye. And he said, well, his problem was, where he faults himself is, he didn't check him as soon as Kanye said what he said. That's my only issue with N.O.R.E. Because I also like the fact that he said it's called Drink Champs, not Think Champs. I've been watching that podcast for 5 years. The purpose of the show is to continue drinking and continue talking, but he gives flowers to those because he's bringing on legends. He ain't bringing on no little random Joe off the street. He's bringing hip hop legends. He's bringing entertaining legends, and he's giving them their flowers. And they're just talking about a myriad of topics, life and career. The only problem that I had, like I said, is he didn't check Kanye as soon as that statement was made. And then it took for the publicity after that for you to make out and come with a statement. I hate the fact, and I tell y'all, people that have been following the show, seeing Jules on the show, I hate apologizing for something that ain't my goddamn fault. I hate it. Like I'm not going to apologize for something that he said. I'm going to check him in that moment, and then we continue this interview. And if Kanye decided to walk, what he said, Kanye walked in there and said, keep him in the cameras rolling. I'm basically going to say what I'm going to say, and y'all going to no, this is still my platform. And this is Black Star Network. Farajii hosts this show. I can't come on this show and say F anybody that's helping build this show up, and Farajii's going to let me continue talking. They're going to stop my camera. It's going to be blanked out. Oh, we had to, sorry about that, folks. Jules, we had to get rid of him for a second. Like this, I control this. Same way N.O.R.E said.
And you're right. And you're right. And I think, I saw in another article about this, Jules, where, when we look at, and I'm just saying this as a show host, when you get those big talents, big names on the show, and they are controversial, you do have to ask yourself, okay, how far do I let this person say what they need to say, right? Because you are thinking about ratings. If you're not thinking about ratings, or if you're not thinking about clicks, I mean, that's the time we living in, folks.
Yep.
That's the time we living in, right? Like if something were to happen, and then I'm able to get that person who's at the center of that event onto the show, of course. Because then the team, Keenan and the team, put it out there as a special segment. You know what I mean? They chopped up the segment and then they put it out there. I mean, that's just the nature of media, right? When you get those big, like for example, prime example, don't want to get into the conversation. I'm just looking at this, using this as an example, folks. When Gail interviewed R. Kelly, CBS ain't pulled none of that. Why? It's just, hey, hey, that's what it is. People going, and everybody just flocked to it. We all watched it. We all, you know what I'm saying?
There you go.
And I think that there's a couple of things that play here, bro, where you think about from that vantage point to your point, like ratings, getting those views, getting those streams. But then you also got to think about your integrity. You got to think about, especially when you're talking to controversial people or people who are known to have controversial comments. You got to think about, okay, what's the impact that I want to make? You know what I'm saying? Like if Kanye came on this platform, he don't have to come on my show. He'd go on Brother Roland's show. You know what I'm saying? But you ain't going to look. One thing, I've learned some things from Brother Roland, but you ain't gonna tell Brother Roland, hey man, don't ask me this question, or if you do act, or keep the cameras rolling. I don't like to be checked. Please.
Jules either, because I don't give a damn what your
That's not how we work over here.
Fact.
You don't own this. You don't run this. You a guest in my house. That's not how it goes. Roland you don't tell him that. You don't tell me that. You wouldn't tell people that. Do you go on to Today's Show? Do you tell Oprah? You don't go on you know what I'm saying? So it's like you gotta, like, even as the artist or the guest, you check to see, okay, who it is. And Kanye knew that, hey, when I come up in the spot, hey man, I can walk out. I learned from Miss Kathy Hughes herself. Hey, bro, if you don't like the way we handle the situation, you don't have to listen, and you damn sure don't have to be on it.
Right.
It is what it is.
It is
you take the Birdman approach. You walk up out the studio.
and that's another thing that N.O.R.E said. He didn't want a Birdman where he told him he couldn't do it and he walked out. But my thing is, F that. Like, here's where I get so annoyed with this world now. Stop trying to please people because outside of their ignorant statements, they're your friends. Like, stop trying to please and stroke the egos of these people. Like, bro, my first question, and this Farajii, this just me. My first question is, why is he even considered a guest for your show? You've seen what this man has been doing for the last couple weeks. Look. Yes, on your show.
If I had, as much as I disagree with Kanye, and I ain't on his side, if he like, yo, let me come on his show and let me explain myself.
Nah,
all right, let's do it. Let's go. Let's go. No, because here's why. Sometimes a joker just got to hear it from another side. You know what I mean? Like, he felt like he was in a friendly space. I guess when he went on Drink Champs, right? He felt like that was a friendly space because he got hip hop ties and not just political ties. Nah, bro. You need to have those conversations if you're going to go through that. And this is a wide ranging interview. So this is, like you said, Jules, you set it up perfectly. It's about life. It's about your career. You're talking to legends. So it's an ode to hip hop, right? In some way. But nah, bro. Nah.
But
nah. And I said it Monday, and I'll say it again, bro. The culture can't be the culture that we love and the culture that we gain from if the culture is full of lies, if the culture is full of egos. Like the culture is not going to stay in existence on those two bases.
Right.
If I gotta appeal to your ego and all that, man, shit, I don't want to do all that, man. Just tell the truth. You can have your views. Make sure that shit is accurate.
I get that too, but the point I'm making is, but then look at the outcome. Look what the first 10 minutes of the daggone thing was. And you know me, I ride with Steven Jackson 1000%. If don't nobody know who Steven Jackson is, Steven Jackson played for the NBA. He got the All the Smoke podcast with Matt Barnes, Stack 5. I ride with 5. Yes, I don't know if anybody went to his page and seen his Instagram stories and his statements after that, but that George family ain't taking none of this land down, bro. Like you don't come off. You can't. This ain't no freedom of speech world where you can just say anything. Like, bro, I get that there's a certain decorum you have. So I get that when I come onto the culture with Farajii Muhammad, I'm still able to say and do what I want. But it's all in the realm of having sense and being contrite with my issues and topics and still being able to be my natural personal self and say what I want. This is not scripted. I can say anything I want to do. I mean, I can say anything I want. But you can't. Before you bring me on here, that I'm not going to just wild out. You just had Kanye on 2 months ago. So you already gave him his flowers. You had the conversation. He was controversial in the issues that he talked about, but it still was a perfect interview to go on. So it was fine. That was a 2 hour and 3. It was actually 3 hours because they broke it up into 2 different parts. It was part 1, part 2. He said controversial stuff in there about Big Sean and this and that. I get it, but you still gave him his flowers, and that was it. You bringing him on now is literally clickbait. That's all this was. Because you've seen what he's done. He ain't got an album coming out.
He might, well, you don't know. And see, we don't know the ins and outs of the Jules. We could have had that. He could have had this show. He could have had this show booked for a month, 2 months.
I think this was spread over.
I don't think so. I don't know. I can't speak to that because we don't know what happened behind the scenes, though.
I listen. I can tell you from a person that listens. I watch Drink Champs. There's never been a repeat guest.
No. But I'm just saying because they got full access now. They got full access, and it took them years to get to that place, right? They got full access right now, right? Like as we continue to build this platform, you're gonna have full access. Brother Roland got full access to a lot of different voices, right, around the country. But that's just takes because of consistency and time. But the point is like, you don't know what you don't know. If I book a guest if I book a guest for next week, and then the guest is embroiled in some controversy this weekend, oh no, we still gonna bring him on. But now we just gotta address the controversy. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way the things go.
I agree with that. That's 100% right. I get that part. What I'm literally saying is I just interviewed you, Kanye West, literally 2 months ago.
I got
There's something else that you have going on currently between 2 months ago and now that we have to discuss that's that major for a 3 hour conversation. It's just
but Kanye only went into spaces that are considered friendly to spaces.
Yes, that he trusted. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like he goes on Tucker Carlson because he aligns with their views. So that's a friendly space. Tucker Carlson ain't gonna go back and forth with him about certain things. You know what I mean? Kanye don't even he hasn't gone to black media. Go to black media and say that. We get your stuff outside of that. Come on, black media. Come on, Black Star Network. Talk to a black newspaper, whether it's the Final Call or some other school or another black newspaper. Talk to black media. Say what you said to black media. Be in the same room, same time, same space with black media with that.
Right.
You're gonna get checked. You're gonna get your egos. Your ego ain't gonna be straight or stroked. It's gonna be bruised.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. This is a 2 hour show. So you bring me on next week, and I start off the interview saying my first 3 sentences says F Barack Obama. How long am I on the show for without being checked?
You can't do it, bro.
Okay, all right. That's the point. That's the point I'm making. That's the point I'm making. You, my bro, you gonna check me right then and there. So if I'm in a comfortable space with my bro, I'm going to get checked, and I'm going to take that check, and the camera's off. This like because everything ain't no, this and that. That's me and you talking. Like, nah, that ain't it.
No, bro. No. And see, here's the thing. Here's the thing. And you know, I'm still kind of processing whether I should, you know, and I get what N.O.R.E is saying, because at the end of the day, you know, it is about ratings. It's about getting people to come to your show. But you got to think about what impact that spoken word has on the listeners. It may not, and I'm saying for you personally, it's one thing. My thing is for the listeners, those watching, those listening to that, right? Because you got a lot more people listening, and those, it's like our online culture crew. Yeah, I know people tune in. We can look at the numbers and say, okay, how many people are actually involved in the chat? But when you go back to look at how many people actually watch the show, that's not two different numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Two different numbers. So that means that more people are listening than there are participating. And that's the thing you got to think about. And you also got to think about, well, whoever is listening, where do they stand on this? Are they clear about certain things? So, you know, there's a lot of responsibility. There's a certain level of responsibility. And I'm happy that N.O.R.E said, you know, I failed, because he should have checked him. But at the same time, if you excuse me, if you're going to have these deep political conversations and you don't know if something's going to be brought up, you got to be in your clearest of mind. Like we know drink champs, they drinking, they smoking, while, you know, it is what it is. Right. But at the end of the day, like, bro, you just know that somebody's probably say some wild stuff.
Right. And
they're going to say some wild stuff, man.
And I'm going to use this platform because I love drink champs. And what I'm going to say to N.O.R.E is, and I'm glad Charlamagne checked N.O.R.E in this, because N.O.R.E was like, you know, what I want to do, you know, I need to talk to my son, Tamika Mallory, bring Killer Mike on. I get that. That's fine and dandy. But don't change your show because of one controversial interview. Your show has been great for 5 years. It's called Drink Champs. We drinking, we talking crap, we having a good time. The longer the show on, the more drunk I'm getting. The conversations get better because then people open up more. That's fine. Don't change your show because of one bad interview moment with the dude. Like, N.O.R.E, keep your show going. I rock with you, bro. This wasn't it though.
Yeah, I wouldn't change the show for that. No, I wouldn't change the show for that. I think it's
because N.O.R.E was like, he was all falling back into a space like, yeah, man, you know, I need to, you know, I need to make up for this by bringing Killer Mike and all them. I get that. Do that when it's their time to do that. Like, do that out of the strength of just doing it randomly, how you've been giving people their flowers. Don't do it in response to what Kanye did. Still keep your show going. Still keep the topics going. Still keep the guests going, because that's your show.
Right.
That's just content that shouldn't have been put out. That's it. Stop.
And the sad part about it, though, and here's the sad part about it, they pulled the whole show. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, so now
I'm saying, like, whatever the few minutes that he talked that madness, you know what I'm saying? But again, I get it.
The internet lives forever, though. It's never gonna go nowhere. The internet lives forever. So it's not going to go nowhere.
It's going to go, but I guess my point is like, you know, you pretty much, look, it's a life lesson. Excuse me. It's a life lesson. You know what I'm saying? Like, you live and learn in this thing. So sometimes when things don't go, I mean, we can say some stuff here on this platform, and then it doesn't, you know, it's not up for restream. And it's a life lesson. You know what I mean? He made amends. He apologized. Right. I think he took the time to say, all right, you know, I shouldn't have said certain things. But to cancel the whole show, no. He also said that Issa Rae, when she was on the show, I think like this, you know, August of this year, she called him Messy Yeager, because she said, you always involved in some drama and you messy with yours, right? And he said, N.O.R.E said, hey, you know what? When she said that to me, that made me reflect on how I'm hosting this show. Like, you starting to see, and he's probably coming into an understanding, a certain level of consciousness, like, yo, people are listening. So if somebody says something on your show, they are taking your show as being this credible source of information. And so this is for all of us who are in media. We don't have the liberty to, quote unquote, act as if we just talking to some small. I don't know where the show, I don't know. He doesn't know where his show will be or how it's going to be interpreted. Same thing for me. Same thing for Roland. Same thing for any one of us that are blessed to have this platform. So you got to come to the mic. You got to come to the camera each and every day, understanding the dynamics of power, the dynamics of the impact of influence. that at the end of the day, your words matter. People are listening. And so there's a responsibility that comes along. It's not just chopping it up and saying whatever. I can't be on the show talking bad about women, saying some crazy things about this person, that person, offending people and thinking it's just locker room talk. No. There's got to be there is a responsibility with having a platform. And that's for really all of us, because if you're on social media, you got a platform. Don't put out madness.
Right.
The thing you're going to have to come back and apologize. Or people might not think you're credible. And that's the last thing that you need, is that you got to come back and be like, damn, man, I lost some people because you didn't stop a situation from happening, or you putting out some wrong information. Or that's always on our minds, man. That's always on our mind. Let me go get a couple of comments from our culture crew. DeAndre, you said there's a difference between someone having an opinion and speaking on it, or their truth about a topic, versus misinformation and disinformation. Facts. Facts. And your opinion can still, DeAndre, you know it and I know it. Your opinion can be somebody else's truth. So you got to be careful about where your opinion is coming from. We can all have opinions. We all got opinions, right? But it's like, even your opinion has to have some truth in it. You don't want to just put out their lies. You don't want that. You don't want that at all. Davey, thank you, DeAndre. Davey, you said platform and ignorance, then make apologies. It's a live and learn situation. I mean, shit, we don't know how. Hey, Jules, N.O.R.E could have been drunk by the time he said, even by the time Kanye came to this, he might have had a couple of drinks, and his inhibitions has been lowered. He may not have caught it, very quick on it. You don't know. We don't know. McCole, you checked in and said N.O.R.E knew that was offensive. George Floyd was murdered. He let Kanye say that, and it was extremely offensive to George Floyd's family and friends. Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I don't think N.O.R.E would object to that. He apologized, and like I said, hey, it's a live and learn situation. It's a live and learn situation. But you know what's funny? Kanye say some wild stuff on Fox News. And guess what? Fox News ain't fold. You know what I'm saying, Jules?
I mean,
Fox News ain't it. So that's interesting too. Do we have a different expectation for Black voices, platforms that are led by Black people versus white people? I don't know. That's another conversation. Jawan, my sister, you checked in and said, look, people need to stop giving Kanye a platform. Freedom of speech doesn't exempt you from the consequences of speaking foolishness or attacking the character of a man who was murdered. Right. I agree. At this point, I'm like you, Jules. At this point, if you get Kanye West, it's because you want that clickbait.
But that's here to that credit. Drink Champs is not live. So after the interview, you had the option of saying, "Yo, we ain't putting this up."
That's true.
That's the only point I make it. Like, and that's why I said again, like I always say, people make mistakes. Stop bashing people for making mistakes. I'm not bashing N.O.R.E. He made a mistake. He owned up to it. Let's move forward with a great podcast. Like, bro, they got a great podcast. Continue doing great things, brother. I'm rocking with Drink Champ still. I don't care. It's just a bad decision.
Yeah, I don't think they should shut down the show. It's a live and learn. You're gonna lose some people, but it's a live and learn. You came out to apologize. And you just know that from this point forward, you got to be on your ding. You got to be on your square to check folks when they say some craziness stuff. All right, look, as we wrap up this show, and I appreciate you, Jules, I want to just let folks know. One is, did y'all know that Brittney Griner's 32nd birthday just happened this past Tuesday? What's today, Wednesday? Yeah. So it just happened yesterday. So big shout out to Brittney Griner. She, of course, is being detained. She's serving her sentence in Russia. Things are still not looking too good for her. Her mental health, her state of mind right now is still like up and down, but she is turned 32. She's saying that she's still having a hard time connecting with her wife and her siblings and her family, and her Russian attorneys are trying to do the best they can. But y'all remember the last time we talked about this whole situation. This is not her release is not a priority for Russia. and apparently it's not a priority for the Biden administration, at least until we probably won't see nothing until after this election. I'm gonna be honest with you. We probably won't see a lot until after the election, because that's just the place that we're in. But if we can certainly, wish our sister a happy 32nd birthday and hope and pray. Let's continue to pray for our sister while she's detained in there. And the final thing, would you say, Jules?
Free BG.
Yeah, bro. Absolutely. And the final thing, if you did not know, I'm sure a lot of people already know, but of course, the student loan debt website is up and running. The president has announced that earlier this week, that the student loan debt website is now available, and you can go ahead and register. The president has also put it out there that there may be a number of accounts that may not need to register to get for debt relief. According to Yahoo News, they put it out there. Take a look at this. Biden's education department is notifying 8 million student loan borrowers that they do not need to apply for debt cancellation, and their relief will automatically be processed. And some of the key things they're telling us, the 8 million borrowers, those borrowers will need not to apply, but those who want to opt out must do so by November the 14th. And those eligible for automatic relief can also submit a form if they want it processed sooner. So this was something that appeared. This was something that was announced by the Educational Secretary, Miguel Cardona. He formally launched the application for up for $20,000 in student loan forgiveness per borrower. It's a simple form that should take less than 5 minutes to fill out. And borrowers need to input basic contact information like their names, email addresses, and social security number. But for about 8 million borrowers, those 5 minutes might be saved. Those borrowers will likely receive notification, and are those whom the department already has income information on file. So you will probably get some letter, some email, something to say whether you are part of that 8 million that will not have to worry about applying for student loan debt relief. And that typically happens, according to reports, either via the free application or for federal student aid, which is FAFSA, or by being enrolled in an income-driven repayment plan, which gives borrowers affordable monthly payments based on the income they bring home. So it's a beautiful thing for those 8 million. But if you haven't checked it out, make sure y'all go ahead and check out. And Ariel, I don't know if we have you can put this up on the screen. All borrowers can apply through the form on studentaid.gov. Studentaid.gov. If you haven't had a chance to apply to see if you have your debt, your student loan debt ready and available. I'm taking a look at this very quickly. I think this is the one. Yep. Studentaid.gov is the website. Ariel, if we could put that up very quickly for our watchers. Yep. Takes about 5 minutes, folks. And hey, Jules, does this apply to you, bro?
Yeah, I already filled it out. It took me 3 minutes. I was so happy to fill it out. It took me about 3 minutes. I did it. I didn't go on Sunday. Sunday morning.
I hear that, man. Ariel, can we put that up? I want to make sure people they when they go to the website what it actually looks like. Is that the one?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's the one. That's the one. I'm looking at the start page too. Yeah, that's it. So, folks, takes about 5 minutes. Takes about the 5 minutes. What you're seeing on screen is once you get to the site, they ask you to start the application, and this is the application form that you see right there. But it takes 5 minutes, man. Save yourself $20,000. Save yourself $20,000. Hey, Jules, thank you, bro. I appreciate you as always, man. We'll bring you back, of course. I don't know, we'll see if the Wednesday is going to be your new home or it's going to still be on Mondays.
I mean, random at this point because my days are like really weird now. So it's gonna be like random days. I'm just gonna pop up nowhere. Just hey, what's going on, y'all?
Hey, right.
Gonna show up on the stream. People are like, yo, you're not even on the stream. I'm talking. I don't care.
My guy, Jules P., hip-hop artist, activist, and all-around good brother. Jules, thank you so much for checking in today. And, of course, thank you for being so good for the culture.
Man, thank you. And also, I never said this before, but I thank everybody on the comment section. I rock with y'all. Y'all go hard. I love y'all. I love y'all. Y'all go hard.
They love you, bro. They love you. Culture Crew, online Culture Crew, definitely love you. So I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, bro. We will reconnect soon.
Sure.
All right, folks. Oh, man. Thank y'all. I thank each and every one of you for tuning in to today's show. Make sure y'all do your due diligence. If you enjoyed these last few days, if you've been enjoying these conversations, and so many of you are checking in just to say, hey, man, I appreciate these discussions. We try to keep these discussions as real as possible, but as empowering as we can, because I'd hate to have conversations just based on complaints. Let's talk about what we're going to do to make things better. But if you've been enjoying them, make sure you show your support for us here at Black Star Network here on the Culture, as we continue to do the great work of representing you in the space and being an institution for Black news and information. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Support us financially, support us with shares, likes, and of course, keeping folks up to date when we post something that you let people know. And a big shout out to my Twitter crew. Man, I got my online Culture Crew, then we got the Twitter Culture Crew, because y'all just keep reposting and retweeting and all that good stuff. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And also follow me on Twitter and all of the social media platforms. Just type in my name, Farajii Muhammad, and you'll follow me. You can see me on all social media platforms. I try to stay engaged as possible as we have these important discussions. But I appreciate all of you for your ongoing support. You can follow me on Instagram at The Real Farajii, and Farajii on Twitter, and Farajii Muhammad on Facebook. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered, RMU, with Big Brother Roland Martin. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. See you then. Peace.